I went through a good year of trying to get things solved with his insurance company. And at that time, I was just so over it.
If you've been in a crash, the last thing you want to do is deal with insurance. It's ridiculous. You're supposed to trust these people, so you call over and over again, but nothing gets resolved. It's the biggest pain in the ass to deal with when you're supposed to be focused on recovery. Hi, I'm Ginger with Biker Lawyers, and I'm here with Jo to talk about her experience with her crash and our law firm. Now, Jo, can you just start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, my name is Jo, and I've lived in Cedar Rapids for a long time. I live in Robbins now.
Prior to the crash, tell me a little bit about your life. What was it like?
Wonderful. I've had a really great life. I grew up on a farm outside of Benton County, and I graduated from high school in Benton in 1990. Got to know a lot of people in Cedar Rapids after I went to college at UNI. I came to Cedar Rapids, and I've been here pretty much the most of my life. So.
Fair. So I know it's not necessarily pleasant, but could you take us back to the day of the crash and just talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, it was 2.5 years ago, and it was a wintry, icy day, and I was just trucking along, probably going about the speed limit. I had traffic on my right side. We were both headed toward Blair's Ferry Road, and I came up to the intersection, and I had a green light, and I was getting ready to go through. However, an oncoming truck pulled out in front of me and was in my lane, and he had nowhere to go. I had nowhere to go. There was a little bit too much traffic in the intersection, and I put my brakes on and just slid right to a stop, impacting him.
So they found the guy who turned in front of you at fault, yes?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
He was 100% at fault. There is video in that intersection, but he knew he was at fault.
Okay.
I was really lucky because there was just so much traffic. I was at a dead stop. It broke the rear end differential in my Jeep, so I had nowhere to. I couldn't put it in drive and just continue to drive. People were honking. You couldn't tell anything was wrong with it, but there was some major damage to my Jeep, and he was able to pull out, and he did, and he turned around in Discount Tire right there at the intersection. I thought he was leaving the scene, so I was really, really nervous. So I didn't get out of my Jeep. I just sat there and just like, what just happened? And then he came back, and he got out of his truck right away to make sure that I was okay, and then eventually the police showed up, and that was after some phone calls that were made.
Post-crash, how did that impact your day-to-day life? You know, what changed?
Actually, more changes at about a 40-mile-an-hour impact than you would think. I was seeing a chiropractor
Sure.
and doing some physical therapy for my neck and lower back as well. So at that impact, the chiropractor says you can shift so much in your body that you would never even think of.
You talked about the physicality of it, how, you talked to your chiropractor, there are pieces that shifted and you had to do some physical therapy. Let's talk more about the emotional side of it. Now you're driving and there's that nagging feeling in your head that this
Yeah.
could happen again. What was that like dealing with
That
that?
is actually really true. Most people didn't know about it. I don't share a lot of information like this with everybody, but I was nervous. It changed quite a bit on how I drive and everything that you look out for. I went through a good year of trying to get things solved with his insurance company. And at that time, I was just so over it because nobody was responding. I would receive phone calls from this gentleman's insurance company, and they gave me the runaround. They would have somebody on it, and one gentleman said,
I will get this taken care of for you and solved for you by next Tuesday.
never heard from him again. So I called Pete, and I just asked him to get involved, and I said, I really don't even want to deal with it anymore.
I think the first time I ever met Jo was at a motorcycle rally, the Romper Room rally. After we'd met her there, we used to do business at the place where she worked quite a bit. So, once we first met her, and then we just saw her regularly after that and just kind of became friends that way. Well, number one, I knew Jo, so I knew what she was telling me was straight up. She described what happened and provided me with some paperwork in addition to telling me what happened. I believed her, and because I trusted her, and beyond that, everything that she provided for me supported the conclusion that I reached simply by trusting her.
How did the crash impact your, ability to work?
It's mentally and emotionally exhausting going through something like this. I can't imagine the people out there who go through horrible accidents and they aren't able to walk again or something like that. Luckily, mine was not like that. I dealt with it on a day-to-day basis. I did a lot of physical therapy for my neck and my lower back, but it is hard to go through something like this.
I'm sure there are plenty of people that also feel the same way. What was the last straw before you decided to call us and, hire the biker lawyers to help you?
It was the probably 3 or 4 different agents that I was emailing. I wasn't getting anybody online with their insurance company.
Ultimately, the other side is an insurance company, and the main way to get them to respond is to sue them, because now you got their attention.
The one final straw was when the gentleman told me, I will have this taken care of and I will have an answer for you and a settlement by Tuesday of next week. I did not hear from him again, so I immediately called Pete.
Some insurance companies will respond and do so in a reasonable fashion, even if you haven't filed a lawsuit yet. But ultimately, you get an insurance company's attention by suing them.
Right. What was it like when you called us? What was the experience like from the start?
Wonderful. Pete said, yes, I will take your case. These are the details, and this is what we're going to do for you. It may take a while, and it did. It took, oh my gosh, a year and a half, I think, after that to finally settle everything. But I was always made aware of what was going on, and it was simple. I didn't have to worry about it anymore.
Sure.
It relieved a lot of stress and headache.
Was there anything in particular that really stood out to you through that process? Was there anything that really grabbed your attention and said, this is something that I needed?
Yes, the emails of keeping in touch, really that's what I needed to feel reassured. And that helps a lot.
Sure.
Just trying to deal with something like this on your own with an insurance company is not easy. They didn't make it easy. For the most part, something like this takes a couple years, and it's something that you just don't want to have to think about. And when the biker lawyers took over and handled my case, I didn't have to think about it at all. They were knowledgeable, and they let me know what was going on with the process at all times.
Sure. How do you feel about the outcome of the case?
I was really pleased with it. I wouldn't have received the settlement that I did. I was able to get a very fair settlement from the accident.
Glad to hear that. In just a few words, how would you describe the overall experience of working with us?
Wonderful. In fact, after my accident, my stepson was in a motorcycle accident, and it was pretty major. So again, I called biker lawyers and I asked them to get involved, and it was immediate, and we were able to get him all of the paperwork that was needed, and he's taken it from here.
A final question here. Let's say you're speaking to somebody who's in a similar situation, they've been in a crash, insurance company's not very responsive, what would you recommend they do?
Actually, I would recommend anybody who's in any type of accident. It doesn't have to be a bike accident. It can be any vehicle accident, just like mine. I would start with biker lawyers immediately and not even have the headache and runaround of trying to settle it yourself. My experience was really wonderful. I hope it never happens again in our family. However, I would immediately call the biker lawyers.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come down here, Jo. Appreciate
You bet.
it.
Thank you.
Biker lawyers. Injured? Ride with us.